All right, so welcome to our weekly workshop. My name is David Raymond. I'm the director of the Virginia Cyber Range and the US Cyber Range. And this workshop is a weekly event, usually 4 p.m. on Tuesdays, and posted live, and of course recorded and posted to our YouTube channel. And with that, I'm going to dive right in here. So last week we talked about I guess the second part of the intro to the VI text editor. This week we're gonna continue with VI, and as mentioned here, the previous videos are all on our YouTube channel, and this will be up on our YouTube channel within the next day or two. And we're continuing our discussion of the command line interface. So this comes from content that was created by Matt Vogel at Tidewater Community College. If you go into the Virginia Cyber Range or US Cyber Range course repository and search for Introduction to the Command Line Interface, you will find these lessons at that location. Just moving my windows out of the way of my slide here. We covered lots of this intro to the command line interface in previous workshops, and those are all recorded on our YouTube channel. Right now we're on module F. So we talked about the Nano text editor, right? So in this in module F here, we're talking about text editors that are used from a terminal window, right, from the command line text editors. And I talk a lot in the previous recorded videos why you need to be able to use a text editor at a Linux terminal at the command line. So we talked about Nano. There's this lesson 2 in module F in Matt Vogel's course that is using VI part 1, and I ended up breaking that into 2 different chunks because it was more stuff than I could cover in my 20 to 30 minute workshop. So I covered it in 2 chunks. There's VI part 1, and then there's part 1 and 2 of that. Hopefully that's not confusing in the YouTube area. And then, so lesson 3, this is using VI part 2, and I think I'll be able to cover VI part 2 in just one session. And I guess we'll see. If I can't do it in 30 minutes, then we'll break it up. So here we are using VI part 2, and these are Matt Vogel's slides. Okay, so today we're just talking about moving around in a file in VI, and that seems really straightforward, right? You have arrow keys, you just use arrow keys to move around. It can be that simple if you want to keep it that simple. However, there's lots of other things you can do in VI to move around. And the more time you spend in VI, the more frustrated you're going to be using the arrow keys. And so the more you're going to want to be able to move around more quickly by jumping whole pages or by searching for things, or just getting to where you want to get, and quickly without paging around one line at a time. And so here's the basic movement in VI. You have the arrow keys, right? So when you're in VI mode or in insert mode, you can use the arrow keys to move around. And that works pretty well. Up, down, left, right, standard stuff. If you press a number and then an arrow key, then your cursor is going to move that many of that thing, right? So if you want to go down 5 lines, you hit 5, and then the down arrow, you're going to go down 5 lines. If you want to go to the right by 5 characters, hit 5, and then the right arrow, and you're going to move that number. And you can even hit like 200. So if you say 200, arrow down, you're going to move down 200 lines. So this is basic movement, right? And you can sort of get away with this if you're just using VI occasionally to edit a configuration file, for example, through an SSH session. You can do this, but you really, to get to capture the power of VI, and if you use VI a lot, you're going to want to do more. And personally, I use VI almost exclusively when I'm editing files on a Linux system, whether I have a windowed system or just an SSH session. I just use VI for everything because I know I'm always going to have access to VI. So why use anything else, right? And so in VI, if you're sort of a power user of VI, you don't use the arrow keys at all. I never use the arrow keys in VI because that I have to move my hands out of the way. Like I have to move my hand from the home row, right? Many of us are touch typists, and the home row is where you are touch typing. And to use the arrow keys, I have to sometimes I have to look at the keyboard to see where the arrow keys are, right? Because on my home keyboard, it's a little bit, the configuration is a little bit different than my work keyboard. And then, I have a Mac laptop that doesn't even have an arrow key on it. And nowadays, lots of people have these small, particularly software developers have these minimalist keyboards that have very few keys. I have one of those at home too on another one of my systems. It's one of the tactile clicky keyboards. It's got the minimum required number of keys, and it doesn't have arrow keys or number keys or any of that fancy stuff. So I can just keep my hands in one place and do all this. And so these are the movement keys, right? You move left by hitting the H key, you move down by hitting the J key, you move up hitting the K key, and you move right by hitting the L key. And that's your right hand home row. And I never have to move my hands from where I have to be. And so in VI mode, this is only in VI mode, right? Move things up and down. So you might ask, because obviously if I was in edit mode and I started hitting H's and J's and K's and L's, and I'd be typing characters, and that's not what I want. So you might ask yourself, well, you still have to use arrow keys to move around in edit mode, don't you? And I would say, no, I don't, because I just go to VI mode and move around and then hit E again and I'm editing. So I just move around in VI mode and don't have to use arrow keys almost ever. I don't use them in VI. And the same is true about hitting a number followed by a key, right? So if I want to move to the right by 3 characters, I hit the 3 and then the L, and the cursor is going to move as I asked it to do. So I'm in this folder I've been using for the last couple of workshops, and I've got some files in here. I've got the temp files that I was working on in those previous sessions, and then I added a couple of additional files with more content, more lines, so that I can show you some of the power of moving around a little bit better. So I'm going to start out with this temp file 3, I guess, temp file 3.txt. And so here I can move around with the arrow keys up and down. And if I'm up at the top and I want to move down by 5 lines, I can hit 5 and then the down arrow, and I'm going to jump, right? I could go down to the next line and I could hit 8 and the right arrow, and I jump 8 characters. And then I can do the same thing with the home row keys, right? So if I hit J, I'm going down. If I hit K, I'm going up. If I hit H, I'm going to go left. Or if I hit L, I'm going to go to the right. And again on this row, if I hit 10 and then L, I'm going to move 10 characters to the right. So that part's pretty straightforward. Slide here. Okay, so you can also move by words, right? So if I'm in VI mode and I hit W, I'm going to go to the next word. If I hit 3W, I'm going to move 3 words. And if I want to go to the beginning of the next word, I can hit a capital W. So W or capital W is going to take me to the next word. So that again, pretty straightforward. W for word. And then if I want to move back, the opposite of W is B. So if I want to move back a word, I hit B. And again, if I want to move back multiple words, then I can hit 3B and move back multiple words. So this is not a very interesting file to do this with, but if I'm at the very beginning of this line and I hit W, you see I move a whole word at a time. And if I hit B, I'm going to move backwards. So just moves me. I'm not moving individual characters. I can move entire words at a time. And that makes things a little bit quicker. I can also move to the end of a word. So E takes me to the end of the next word. And if I hit like 3E, it's going to move me to the end 3 words forward. And sometimes it's better to be at the end of a word than at the beginning of a word, just because I want to edit something following that word instead of, putting stuff, if I'm going to insert stuff right after that word. So it just, you kind of, I don't use the E very much. I generally use the E and the B to move forwards and backwards words, but this E command might be helpful to you also. And then this is very helpful. If I'm on a line and I want to move to the end of that line, then I can use the dollar, and that takes me all the way to the end of the line. And so then I can append things, right? If I need to add stuff to the end of a line, this gets me to the end of the line so I can append something. And in my simple example here, with these lines, it's really easy to get to the end of the line by I can just hold down the arrow key and I'm to the end of the line pretty quickly, right? So it's not really a big deal to move to the end of a line in a simple file like this. But it is helpful in a more complicated block of text. So let me go to this larger file. So here I have several lines, and these are paragraphs, right? And it's interesting to note that when we talk about lines in a text file in VI or in any terminal, a line is not like here. It looks like fourscore is line 1, and then to the proposition is line 2. Well, that's not the case at all. So fourscore up through the carriage return, which the carriage return is right here, right? Fourscore up through the word equal. Well, this is all one line. Because there's no carriage return, and if this window was bigger or smaller, then the lines would be different, right? Because I could have more stuff on a single line or less stuff on a single line. So a line is not a line of text in the terminal window. A line is everything up to a carriage return. And a carriage return is like if I'm typing something and then I hit the enter key, that brings me back to the beginning of the next line. That's a carriage return, right? So if I'm back at the beginning of this line and I wanted to go to the end of the line, how do they get to the end of the line? Well, I could sit here and hit L for a long time and get to the end of the line, and that would be particularly egregious when I'm in the third paragraph here, right? Because the carriage return isn't until after the word earth, which is pretty far down. But if I want to get to the end of that line and append to that, then I just hit the dollar sign, and now I'm right here at the end of the line, right? So that's pretty helpful. And of course, the opposite, there's an opposite, right? So I can move the end of the line or I can move the beginning of the line. The way I've moved to the beginning of the line, beginning of the current line, is I hit 0. And again, in this pretty long block of text, it's not straightforward to get, it'd take me a long time to just arrow over there. But and if I were to arrow up, then I would be, I would jump past the beginning of that line, not by much. So I could arrow up and then start inserting stuff here. But if I want to insert at the beginning of the next line, and I'm way down, here, then I could just hit 0, and now I can start inserting at the beginning of that line. So that's moving entire lines at a time. So again, I can use my HJKL to just move around, line to line, or character to character within a line. I can use the W to move word by word. I can use the B to move back words. I can use the dollar sign to go to the end of the line. I can use the 0 to go to the beginning of the line. And so now I can move around large chunks of real estate without having to just use individual arrow keys or individual home row keys to go from one place to another. So So here's another command that's pretty useful. The X command :set NU will add line numbers to my document. And so remember to go to get to the X command, I hit a colon, right? So when I hit a colon down at the bottom left here, I see a colon, and now I can do my X command. X commands are things like when I want to write a file to the disk, I hit W and then enter. When I want to exit VI, I hit X and then enter. Those are the X commands, and we talked about those in previous sessions on VI. If I want to turn on line numbers, then I can say set NU, so set numbers. NU is short for numbers. And so now I have line numbers, and you see with these line numbers that lines are everything up to a carriage return. And so to go to the end of this line, this is the carriage return is after the period here, and then here's line 2, line 3, line 4. So line numbers can sometimes be useful. And then you can move all the way to the last line in a file, right? So if you have a really big file, you can use the G command to move to the last line, and the lowercase gg will move to the top of the file, right? So uppercase G moves you to the end of the file, lowercase gg moves you to the beginning of the file. And so if I'm up at the top of this file, right? If I hit uppercase G, now I'm at the bottom of the file. If I hit GG, I go up at the top. Again, this is this file has long lines, but it's a relatively short file. If I have a longer file, like I have an SSHD config file in here, right? So this is a configuration file for an SSHD server, and this has lots of lines. So if I start up at the top here, and if I were to do a set NU, now I get line numbers. Okay, so now if I want to move all the way to the bottom of this file, what do I do? I hit Shift G. This takes me all the way to the bottom, and see with this 117 line file, again, that would be a lot of down arrows to get down to the bottom. So lowercase gg takes me to the top, uppercase G takes me to the bottom. So now I can move left and right within the block of text by a single character. I can move words forwards and backwards using the W and the V key. I can move to the end of the line, beginning of the line. I can using the $ and the 0 key, and then I can move to the end of the file using uppercase G, and the beginning of the file using GG. So if I want to just navigate around an individual screen, then I can use these commands, the uppercase H, M, and L, and that takes me to, I always think of those, in order to remember those, I always think of those as high, medium, and low for whatever reason. If I want to move to the bottom of the screen, I hit uppercase L, that's low, takes me low. If I want to go to the middle, I hit M. If I want to go to the top, I hit H, and so that's my high, medium, low. And that's how I remember it. And then I can move a whole screen at a time, right? So Control F moves me one screen at a time. So if I don't, I don't necessarily have to go all the way to the end of the file. If I just want to go screen by screen, I hit Control F to go forward, and then Control B to go backwards. So here I'm up at the top, and I can, whoops, what I do here? I can hit Control F, takes me one line, 2 lines, 3 lines, and this will get me eventually to the end. And then I can do the same thing with the B. And you see when I do that with the line numbers, it's obvious, right? I have line 1 through 28 here. I've hit Control F. Now I see 28 and then down to 54. And now I have 53 down to 80. There's a little bit of overlap at the top of the bottom, so you sort of maintain context of what you're looking at. But that's how I move entire screens. Okay, and then searching, we talked a little bit about searching in a previous one of these, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about searching. You can search forward using the / key. So this is one of this is one of the commands in VI I just use a lot, right? You have to be in VI mode, but usually when you're editing a file, first you got to get to where you need to be in the file to start editing it. And so the slash key is something that you probably use a lot in VI. Slash key is the search, and the question mark is a backwards search, right? So if I'm in the middle of the file and I want to search forward towards the end, I hit the slash key and then I start typing in my search term. If I want to search backwards towards the top of the file, I hit the question mark key, and that'll search upwards. Now it is helpful to understand that if you hit the slash key and you're searching, you can search again, and it's going to go down to the next occurrence of that search term, and then eventually it's going to wrap around back up to the top. So eventually you'll get what you're looking for if you just use the slash key and keep doing next. But if you have a sense of where you are in the file and where what you're looking for is, then the question mark will get you closer to where you want to be more quickly. And then there's this, you can press N to do subsequent searches for the same term, right? So you don't have to search. So here, I'll show an example. Go up to the top of this file. So let's say I want to change, one of the things that I can change in an SSH config file is I can turn on and off password access, right? So SSH, the old school way to get into an SSH file to connect to an SSH server is to use a password authentication. So I put in a username and password. The way we do it in most cases nowadays, the way I do it in most cases nowadays is using an SSH key, and that's more secure than using password authentication. But lots of people still like to use password authentication, and the standard SSH config file, if you were to turn on your own SSH server, is going to have password configuration in most cases turned off, right? So if I'm going to turn on password authentication, I might want to search on the word password, and so I hit /PASS. Oops. So I'm typing in password, and there I got to where I needed to be, right? So and then I hit enter, and now I can remove that. I can remove that hashtag, I guess we call them nowadays, number sign. Those are all comments, right? There's a config file. Those number signs are all commenting out these lines. When I remove that comment indicator, now I've turned on password authentication for this SSH server, and then I would restart the server to reread the config file, and now you can use password authentication to get into it. The whole point here, obviously, was to search on that word password, and so now I'm in VI mode. So now if I hit N, I'm going to get to the next occurrence of the word password, right? And then if I hit N again, it takes me. Where did it take me? It took me down here, right? So here's password. Here's the word password again. And then if I hit N again, it takes me to the next occurrence. And then if I hit N again, I guess that took me, okay, so what that did was, if I keep hitting N, then I'm gonna wrap around, right? So you see from the line numbers that I went back up to the top of the file. So if I hit N a few times and I wrap around. Now, if I'm down here a ways and I want to search up for the word password, then I hit the question mark and then password, enter, and now I'm going to be searching up. And again, if I hit N, I started searching up, so I'm going to continue searching up, and then again, this is going to wrap around to the bottom of the file and search up again. So that's how you search for things: the slash, and then you type in the word and then enter, and then to search down, you use a slash. To search up, you use question mark. And the question mark's easy to remember because it's the key. It's the uppercase of the slash, so it's down next to your right shift button. Okay, so that's how we search up and down in a VI file. And go to the next, search again. Okay, and I can search again on a previous search term. I can also search again using the slash enter or the question mark enter to go through previous searches. So if I go slash. Yeah, I arrow up and these are my previous searches. So you can, so if I've searched for something before and I hit slash, then I can use the arrow key. So now if I were to search for root, for example, and then I can next through all my occurrences of root, which looks like there's only one. Oh, two of them. There's two occurrences. But now if I want to search for password again, I just hit slash and I hit the up arrow key. It's kind of like using the history on the Linux command line. Now I can search on that new thing, or search on the old thing again, I guess is the right way to say it. Okay, and that's it for moving around in VI. Again, if you're not a frequent VI user, you can do a lot of things just with the arrow keys and get where you want to get. But if you're going to use VI a lot, then I certainly encourage you to learn some of these extra commands, and you might just want to sort of you don't want to learn them all at once, but the ones that you find more useful. I always try to keep my hands on the home row, so I always use the HJKL commands to move around. I use the search a lot, so slash is very helpful. Getting to the end of the line and the beginning of the line is super helpful, so I use the dollar a lot and the zero to get to the beginning of the line. Moving back and forth words, that's kind of helpful, but if that crowds something else out of your brain, then you might skip over that for a while. And then whatever is useful to you. Okay, so any questions or comments before we wrap up? Right on time here. All right, so I'll just show this slide again. These are resources for educators. We have a vast knowledge base at kb.virginiacyberrange.org and kb.uscyberrange.org. We have a ton of old YouTube videos and new YouTube videos on our YouTube channel. Lots of things covering everything from capture the flag, setting up your own capture the flag competition, to solving CTF challenges, to command line interface, to other lessons on cryptography and networking and etc. And so take a look at the YouTube channel if you need stuff to share with your students. And then we have a great customer support team, and these are their email addresses. So feel free to reach out if you have any questions or comments. And with that, I will close it up and look forward to seeing you all next week. So thank you.